Good Monday, everyone. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King, and we are here for Just Parlays, brought to you by our friends at Caesars Sportsbook, where, by the way, if you are a first-time gambler, we strongly recommend you go there. Now, why? Well, first of all, they have a fantastic book. Second of all, and more importantly, if you are a Winners and Whiners fan, and we know you are or you wouldn't be here, okay? The first time you use their app or make an online bet, they'll match your first bet all the way up to $1,001, okay? All the information on this fantastic Winners and Whiners deal, but you have to use the promo code Video Winners, okay, to get that deal. So use the promo code Video Winners. All the information is in the show box below. And guess what? You're going to get up to $1,000 match for your first bet at, on the Caesars Sportsbook, win, lose, or draw. Not bad, Chris, huh?
No, you can't go wrong with money that you don't have to put in yourself when you're betting.
Absolutely, 100%. Not to brag, but, we didn't do badly on the college football picks this weekend, my friend.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about it, that it was a matter of have been there, done that against somebody that hadn't in both those bowl games. And we also said that Cincinnati had good defense in the secondary, and we wondered if Alabama was going to run the ball, and they ran the ball right down Cincinnati's throat. I mean, Brian Robinson over 200 yards on the ground. Alabama showed that they're not just a pass-happy team with Bryce Young back there under center and Jameson Williams on the outside. Now we're going to get a rematch with Georgia, who did exactly what we thought they would do too. They really took Michigan to task early on and put that game away probably before the first quarter was over because the Wolverines looked completely overmatched. They couldn't move the ball on the inside zone with the run, and that doomed Jim Harbaugh's guys.
It did. It was really weird because over the weekend we saw, Penn State, Iowa, and Ohio State came close, but pretty much all the Big Ten teams that played in the key bowls, with the exception of the Ohio State game, which was, to me, that was a wild and fun game against Utah in the Rose Bowl.
Right.
They all lost. And
Iowa has no offense, and they screwed themselves over trying to go for it on fourth down late, and then couldn't stop Kentucky when it mattered. Yeah,
and Kentucky played well, good for Stoops. There's two Stoops that won bowl games, Bobby and his brother.
Two Stoops bowl wins with Kellogg's Raisin Bran.
That's right. There you go. So, yeah, it was fun. Yesterday was crazy in the NFL. The Bengals proved to be very challenging. Sorry to our buddy Scott, who I'm sure was, crestfallen that at this point in time, the inside track to the number one seed in the AFC looks like it's going through Tennessee at this moment.
Well, but the thing is, Steen talked about how, it was the two best teams in the AFC, but he didn't want to comment about the fact that the Chiefs had lost to the other two division leaders in the AFC, and now they've lost to all three of them in the same season.
During the regular season, which it's very rare that you get that opportunity to play those teams all in the same situation. So it was really kind of an interesting setup in that regard. And, right now, like it, don't like it, Tennessee has played. And you know what? You got to give credit where credit is due. Tennessee has played well enough to hold down that spot when it looked like, for all the world, the Colts were going to catch it.
True. Some of it was fortuitous scheduling,
Yeah.
But, they did blow games against Houston down in that stretch, too. So, they seem to have found themselves yesterday they committed to the run, which is something they haven't really done as much of late. Dante Foreman got a workload, 26 or 27 carries, I think. And, we saw Miami finally get exposed. Everybody was on the Miami bandwagon with 7 straight wins, but like we talked about yesterday on the Bucs report, those wins were over teams that weren't any good. Their one win over a team with a winning record was Baltimore, and look at them now.
Yeah, I got a text from Andrew Goldman, who was speaking of the Bucks Report. For those of you who didn't see us yesterday, Andrew, fantastic work on the Jets X Factor. He really does know what's going on with the Jets, and he sent me a text going, "We got Brady again for 59 minutes of the game yesterday. The Jets were leading the game, and then of course Brady." Gets a touch with a little over 30 seconds left to go in the game. And for the 51st time in his career, on the last possession of his team's last possession in either regulation or overtime, he came out a winner. It was not pretty by any stretch of imagination. And frankly, the Jets pretty much won that game. They had the game. They had an opportunity all they had to do was either kick a field goal or, they went for fourth down, and for some reason known only to them, they went for a run, which they hadn't been doing that well at points in the game.
Yeah, it was a terrible play call. Yeah. With Zach Wilson does not have the size to try and run a QB sneak on 4th and 2. You need a guy. And not to tout, Buffalo's quarterback, because Josh Allen looked terrible throwing the ball yesterday. But Josh Allen has the size where you can push inside and get 2 yards. Right. Or somebody like Dak Prescott has the versatility where he can probably, find a way around. Or Jalen Hurts. Zach Wilson is not that guy.
No, Zach Wilson is not. That being said, Zach Wilson afforded himself very well yesterday.
Well, let's not take anything away from him. But like you said, too, you're dealing with a Tampa Bay team that were minus a whole slew of guys in the secondary.
They've got an all-pro team that's in the either in protocol or in injury. So there's that. Well, we've waxed on about yesterday. Let's talk about some winners and whiners, posers, if you will, in the NFL. So I'm going to throw 4 quick ones from each at you, and you tell me winner. Okay, here we go. All right, we'll start with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I think Dallas is they're a whiner at this point. You have to look when you start blaming the officials for the reason you lost, you have issues. I mean, they can't rely on their defense forever. Michael Gallup, they think, tore his ACL, I think it was yesterday. We're going to take another receiver out of the mix. You're going to have to rely on Cedric Wilson to bail out CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. They don't run the ball enough like you would expect, having Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard.
Right.
And we saw that defense, they didn't generate any big plays yesterday. They didn't generate any turnovers. They didn't really get any pressure on Kyler Murray. And that doesn't bode well when you're going into the playoffs against some of these teams that don't give you free turnovers like Washington or the Giants.
And even Washington didn't do that yesterday for Philadelphia. So
that's true.
All right, the Bucs.
Boy, the Bucs, as much as Ray will hate to hear it, at this point you have to think they're a whiner. You saw they've got so many issues defensively now in the secondary. They don't have. I mean, when you had to sign Richard Sherman off the street and then he got hurt, and then I don't think he played that much since coming on anyway.
Yeah.
And like you said, they've got a slew of guys in protocols or that are injured. You have Antonio Brown melting down. Godwin is gone. Mm-hmm. Gronk gets more balls that hit him in the back or his helmet than he actually gets the catch. Right. And the run game isn't that great. I mean, if Fournette comes back, that'll probably be a plus there. But you have to wonder if the offensive battle of attrition is going to catch up to them, much like the way defensively, like you said, the Jets controlled the clock yesterday, and that's something you don't normally see from them.
No, you don't. How about the Rams?
The Rams have a lot of talent, but Matthew Stafford has turned the ball over 7 or 8 times in the last 3 games. He threw another pick 6 yesterday. They had to rally to beat a Baltimore team that is skidding in the wrong direction. And, Jalen Ramsey got in a slap fight on the sideline too. Apparently that's all the rage this week and last week. I'm going to have to fade the Rams at this point until I can see them get it together. I mean, they have Darrell Henderson on injured reserve, so you're trying to rely on Sony Michel in the ground game. And everybody likes the fact that OBJ has 5 touchdowns in his 7 games with the Rams, but he's still not making a ton of plays. they're still force feeding Cooper Kupp. If you find somebody that locks down Cooper Kupp, where are the Rams going to throw the ball?
Yeah, and in Cooper's case, he's absolutely and shouldn't be overlooked as someone who is, without question, a potential MVP in the league. If you're looking at the wide receiver spot, he definitely deserves that consideration. But
if you're getting force-fed the ball 15, 18 times a game, anybody can rack up numbers like that. That's like if you play video games and you throw the ball to yourself every time, you're of course going to have big numbers.
But you're right. The key with Matt Stafford is that he was the guy who was not supposed to give the other team chances, and he has given the other team chances, and he gave the Ravens every opportunity to win that game yesterday, and they were kind enough to give it back to him. And
he's now moved up to fourth all time in pick sixes.
Yeah, that's territory you do not want to be in.
Exactly.
So there's that. So then we got 3 there. Let's move over to the other side, to the AFC, the Bengals.
The Bengals have a lot of offensive weapons. They can score a lot of points. The problem is their defense isn't all that great. Let's be honest. We saw them give up 41 to the Chargers. They gave up 31 yesterday. That works great in a vacuum. Unfortunately, when you play in January, the weather gets bad, and that doesn't bode well for Cincinnati. I think they're on the upswing. Next year, I might consider them a winner. Right now, I don't. I have to see more from that defense because they're just not. They're not good enough right now, I think, to shut down a top offense,
right,
or a team that can run the ball. We know Kansas City won't do that, which is why Kansas City lost.
Right. Well, I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna go with you. I think they showed up 80% a year early, and I think that if they get the opportunity to have a good off season and get the people that they need to get, they're going to take advantage of a North division that right now has Pittsburgh in flux. We'll get to them later. Cleveland, who knows what the hell they're doing. Baltimore is a mash unit, and and I don't want to take anything away from what the people in Cincinnati have done, because Joe Burrows has really done well. At the end of the day, they were the last team standing in a division that was literally crumbling around them. So,
yeah, Zach Taylor has done a good job. They got a lot. Like I said, they got a lot of good young offensive weapons, but they got to fix that defense.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, well, we're going to go, as we always do, to the college basketball hardwood, and tonight we have some very entertaining basketball games. So we're going to start off with a team. Well, we're going to go to the mid-majors because we have some fun mid-majors as well. So here we go.
Yeah, we've got Sacramento State from the Big Sky going on the road to face Oregon State in a non-conference matchup at the Gill Coliseum in Corvallis. Those records aren't pretty, let's face it. Oregon State's 3-10, Sacramento State's 4-6. But look at that, Oregon State has won 2 straight games after that 10-game losing skid. They beat Utah 88-76 at home Thursday. I didn't think they would beat the Utes. I took Utah in that game, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Sacramento State's lost 4 or 5. They lost 64-51 to Southern Utah. That's right, the Thunderbirds coming up with a win there. Sacramento State, they struggle offensively. They're 316th in offensive efficiency, 336th in effective field goal percentage, 328th in three-point shooting, and 323rd in shooting from two-point range. So you can't shoot from the outside. You can't shoot from the inside. You probably aren't very good offensively. That bears out pretty clearly. Oregon State 7-0 in their last 7 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. They're 6-1 in their last 7 after a straight-up win. And they're 5-1 in their last 6 against teams with a losing record. Meanwhile, Sacramento State 2-5 in their last 7 after an ATS win. They barely covered the line against Southern Utah. They were a 15-point underdog, lost by 13. Going on the road to Corvallis, while it's not as foreboding as it may have been in seasons past, as funny as that might sound, I think that Oregon State will get the win. Jared Lucas has another big game for the Beavers as they may get 3 straight wins. Wayne Tinkle can feel good for a minute as his team improves to 4-10.
You know,
a major drop off for that team after going to the Elite Eight a year ago.
Yeah, Oregon State going to Corvallis at this time of the year is they've had a lot of snow out there, and we went from 50 degrees here in the Washington D.C. area to about a little over 2.5 inches of snow this morning. I will be speaking to the weather people in this area who did not mention that this was going to happen.
Well, of course not. They get paid to be wrong.
Yeah. 50% of the time they're right. Anyway, so it's been really rough out there, and I feel badly for the people in Oregon, of course, and Colorado, and all those states out there in the both in the Mountain West and in the far West out there. So it's been tough, and so Oregon State playing at home against a less than spectacular Sacramento State team. 100% with you, Chris. This looks like an easy day at the beach. Now we go from a mid-major to Big Ten teams, right?
Yeah, we got Purdue, number 2 or 3 in the country. They're at home against Wisconsin. Purdue favored by 12.5, which isn't that much of a surprise playing at the Mackey Arena. They're 12-1 this season. Wisconsin, they're 10-2. Purdue's won 4 in a row since that buzzer beater loss to Rutgers. Thanks, Ron Harper Jr., for screwing us over on that one. Wisconsin, they've won their last 2, but they were close games. If you look, they struggled to beat Nicholls State 71-68. And then they struggled to beat Illinois State 89-85 in overtime, and nobody's thinking that the Redbirds of Dan Muller are any good. Wisconsin 1-1 on the road. They were drubbed 75-55 by Ohio State in their last road game. Meanwhile, Purdue's 8-0 at home, and they are a force to be reckoned with offensively. They lead the nation in offensive efficiency. They are second in effective field goal percentage at 60.2%. They will kill you on the offensive glass. They rebound 39.9% of their own misses, so plenty of second chance points there. Fifth in three-point shooting at 41.1%. They're third inside the arc at 59.1%. Wisconsin is 2-12 in their last 14 when their opponent put up at least 100 in their last game. They're 1-6-1 in their last 8 on Monday. Purdue 4-1 in their last 5 after putting up at least 90 points. And more importantly, the home team 6-1-1 against the spread in the last 8. I had to get it, Brad Davison. He seems like he's been at Wisconsin for about 37 years now. Johnny Davis is there. But beyond that, Greg Gard doesn't have a whole lot of offensive firepower. Purdue has plenty of firepower, and they have size, especially when you've got Zach Edey at 7'4", down there in the paint. He's going to be a force on both ends. You got Trevion Williams, who is a double-double machine. You have to think Purdue playing at home can take care of a Wisconsin team that struggled to beat a couple of below-average mid-majors in their last 2 home games coming into this one.
I'll go back to when I was doing the Big Ten basketball game of the week, and we used to do double headers on Saturday, and the main game was always the 1 o'clock game. The night game was not not that it wasn't important, it wasn't as important. And so I did the A game earlier in the day, which was Michigan against Indiana. And the night game was Illinois taking on Purdue at the Mackey Center. And I don't know if you remember Gene Cady, but Gene used to wear that orange blazer. And I was watching the game, and my brother was producing the other game. So I called the truck, and they have a shot before the game telling with a graphic under it said Gene Cady, coach. I'm saying that wasn't Gene Cady. They had a shot of one of the things that can be confusing is everyone who is an usher at the arena, and there are some of the older members of the class of folks at Purdue wear that same damn orange blazer. So it would have been pretty easy to find somebody who looked a little bit like Gene Cady wearing an orange blazer, but it wasn't that guy. So Cady and that whole Purdue thing. Purdue's had a pretty good pedigree of basketball, and this year, this has been probably their best year in many, many years. Don't forget Cady and his battles with Bob Knight. I'm sorry?
I said, don't forget about Cady's battles with Bob Knight.
Oh God, no. Yeah, they did not like each other, and it wasn't even close to being amiable. The closest thing you would see to a handshake after the after the game was over is if you were lucky if you didn't get a hand gesture from one of them after the game. So yeah, they did not like each other. And truth be told, and here's one little quick other inside point: the only coach in any sport I've ever been told by the conference or by the league, you don't have to interview, or if he doesn't want to do the interview, don't do the pregame interviews, Bob Knight. So that was we always got Bob's assistant would be our interview as to what's going to happen in Indiana. Bob didn't have time. All right. Meanwhile, we're moving on.
Yep, we're going to go to the Pac-12.
Okay.
Arizona favored by roughly 6.8 billion points as they take on Mike Hopkins and the Washington Huskies. This line has moved. It was 21 last night. I liked it a lot better then. I still kind of like it at 25, but if it gets much higher than that, I'd be a little skittish. They're playing at the McHale Center down in Tucson. Arizona 11-1, Washington 5-5. Arizona coming off their first loss. They lost by 4 at Tennessee back on December 22nd. Meanwhile, you're looking at a Washington team. They've lost 3 out of 4, including home losses to Winthrop and Utah Valley. Right, Utah Valley. Now, last I checked, nobody considered Utah Valley much of a threat. Not only that, Washington lost that game 68-52. Mark Madsen probably did some stupid dances after that game as the Wolverines picked up the win. You get down to it, Arizona's 15th in offensive efficiency. They're 11th in defensive efficiency, 14th in effective field goal percentage, 11th in offensive rebounding percentage, 8th in two-point shooting. Meanwhile, Washington sucks offensively. They're 331st in effective field goal percentage. They shoot 28.5% from 3. They shoot 44% from 2. And just to make sure that they can't score anywhere, they're 303rd in free throw shooting at 65.8%. I feel bad for Hopkins. He left, eventually going to be the successor to Jim Boeheim to go to Seattle. He had one good season. And since then, they've gone right down the toilet. And I don't think things are going to get a whole lot better here. If you can't beat Utah Valley and Winthrop at home, they also lost to Nevada on a neutral floor. They lost to Northern Illinois, for crying out loud. I mean, here's their wins. They beat Northern Arizona, Texas Southern, George Mason, Seattle U, and South Dakota State. None of those really moved the needle. No.
It's sad but true. There's not a lot there. It's really why. So they're playing that game in Tucson, right?
That is correct. They're playing at the McHale Center. Tommy Lloyd, he's done a good job in his first season. They're taking over for the departed Sean Miller, and they will run you into the ground. The Wildcats 4th in the nation in tempo, 74.7 possessions a game. That's not something that Washington wants to deal with. I mean, the Huskies like to run. Unfortunately, they don't score, and they're not all that great defensively.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where we have to check Ken Palm to find out what they're like on the layup drill. I mean, they may be missing that.
I think they shoot like 37% on layups.
On the layup drill.
That's just speculation.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the lineup, well, I mean, Washington, they got Terrell Brown, who transferred from Seattle.
Okay.
But outside of that, they don't have a whole lot of weapons to deal with.
So they got a guy who transferred 5 miles from Seattle over to the other part of Seattle, where
pretty much.
University of Washington. All right. Well, when we started earlier today, it looked like we might have 3 hockey games tonight. But again, remember, this is the NHL. So when it looks like there's a game going on, until they drop the puck, you're not sure. So here we go to the only game on the ice.
Hold on one second, Jim. I just want to touch on a couple of things here.
Okay, go ahead.
Ryan, Michigan State got to win. I think, if let's face it, if Pitt's third-string quarterback doesn't throw a pick 6 in the final minute of that game, Pitt covers the line anyway. And number two, if Pitt's second string quarterback hadn't been an idiot and dove to try to get in the end zone when he could have ran it in anyway, he wouldn't have been hurt, and the third string guy wouldn't have been in there to throw a pick six. Either way, you were right. Michigan State got the win. I give you credit. I still think that Pitt should have won that game. Pat Narduzzi had probably slapped the crap out of Nick Patty after the game for diving into the corner of the end zone like a moron. But hey, that's the way things break sometimes. You can't get them all.
Yeah, good for you, Ryan.
And John, no, Washington's not as bad as IUPUI, but don't worry. We've got a game coming up for you that's got two teams that'll make you wish, that makes you think that IUPUI was as good as Gonzaga. So stay tuned for that.
Hey, John, I was just going to say, IUPUI doesn't play again for a while, do they?
They play Thursday against, I think it's
up to this week.
I think they play Thursday against Cleveland State. Let me double check.
All right. Well,
IUPUI. No, they play Northern Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Thursday.
We've actually had Northern Kentucky a couple times here.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, with your permission, we will go to the ice.
Yes. We'll go to the one game there is.
The one game that is being played. By the way, I don't know how many of you took a moment to check out the Winter Classic on Saturday night, but I felt bad for Kenny Albert and the crew there, as it was brutally cold, and it looked like they were playing on somewhere just north of International Falls, or as those of us of an age where Bullwinkle and Rocky were on the air, Frostbite Falls, Minnesota, instead of Minneapolis. But it made for good television. I will go.
On the plus side, at least Kenny got to go into a dome stadium for the NFL Sunday. He
needed to warm up. Yeah, absolutely. So we got the Rangers, who suddenly started playing well.
Yeah, and they're at home. They're a slight underdog against Edmonton. The Rangers 21-8-4. The Oilers 18-12-2. The Rangers playing the second game of back-to-back. They blanked Tampa Bay 4-0 yesterday behind Igor Shesterkin. Meanwhile, Edmonton 0-2-1 in their last three since the Christmas break. They lost 3-2 in overtime on the road to the suddenly resurgent New York Islanders. John can tell you about that. He was at the UBS Arena Saturday to see that game. Edmonton has struggled of late. The Rangers fifth in goals against at 2.52. Edmonton 21st, giving up 3.22 goals per game. The Rangers will be without Artemi Panarin. He's in the protocols. Edmonton expected to start Mikko Koskinen in net. It'll be Alexander Georgiev for the Rangers. But the Rangers, they're 7-1 in their last 8 when it comes to the third game of a 3-game and 4-night situation. They're 8-3 in their last 11 overall. Meanwhile, Edmonton is spiraling all of a sudden. They've lost 9 of their last 11. They've lost 5 of their last 6 against the Eastern Conference. They've lost 4 of their last 5 against teams with a winning record, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 on the road. As talented as they are offensively, they have struggled in the defensive end of the ice. And that doesn't bode well against a Rangers team that can score, but they can also shut you down, as Tampa Bay found out yesterday. I like the Rangers at home.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, they're still not getting any goaltending. And
yeah, they really got to get Vasilevsky and Elliott out of the protocols sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
that Atlantic Division is crowded because you've got Tampa Bay has 47 points, Florida has 46, and Toronto's got 44.
Yeah, this is it's about time for you to start taking that Maple Leafs jersey out of mothballs there, bud.
We tried to find stuff for the wall, but they don't carry that stuff down here for some reason.
Oh well,
it's strange enough that they actually have Bills and Cubs stuff down here, but
the Cubs are a national team, and the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills aren't, but there's a lot of people from up there that live down here now, I guess.
A lot of upstate New Yorkers in that area. So anyway, so we go from the ice to. It seems like the association is actually getting it right. They're not getting as many games postponed as the National Hockey League are. Of course, they only have one team in Canada, so that certainly probably helps them as well.
Yeah, that is a big factor. They keep canceling games up north in hockey because of the fact that they've curtailed the capacity. So I watched part of the Ottawa-Toronto game Saturday night, and it was weird because there's nobody in the crowd. All the seats are tarped off and everything. It was very disconcerting. It kind of reminded me a lot of, the way hockey was last season, that nobody really was entertained watching because there's no crowd noise.
Right.
On the other side, it makes the goal horn sound very loud.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Thank goodness that Don Cherry's not there. It would have made him sound louder as well. All right, so here we go. The Bulls and the Magic. Not to be confused with what I thought in our pre-show, that the Magic had played seemingly the same team for the last 6 weeks.
Well, they can't even scrimmage most of the time, so I guess you have to work with what you have. But yeah, Chicago, they've won. They've been on a roll of late. They came out of their pause. They've won 7 in a row. They won back-to-back games at the buzzer. They beat Indiana and then beat Washington Saturday night on a three-pointer by DeMar DeRozan at the end of regulation. So things are going good for you. Things are going good. Let's be honest. Orlando, they played yesterday in Boston. They lost 116-111 in overtime. The Magic 1-6 in the second game of back-to-back situations this season. They score only 98.7 points a game in those games. They're 2-6 in the second game of their last 8 back-to-backs against the spread. Meanwhile, Chicago's 4-0 in their last 4 on Monday. They're 5-1 in their last 6 at home against teams with road winning percentage below 400. They're 5-1 in their last 6 at home. According to the latest injury report, let's see who's going to play for Orlando. Let's see. Cole Anthony is out. Michael Carter-Williams still out. Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Robin Lopez, Etuan Moore, Chuma Okeke, Jalen Suggs, all out. Mo Wagner is questionable. For the Bulls, you won't see Tony Bradley, Alex Caruso, he's out with a foot sprain. Tyler Cook has an ankle sprain. Javonte Green has a strained right adductor. Marko Simonovic is out in the protocols. Patrick Williams still out with that ligament tear in his wrist. He's out till April. It sounds like Chicago will get Lonzo Ball back tonight. And the way DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic have played, be a good chance for Vucevic to stick it to the Magic. Look for the Bulls to win this one as the MASH unit in Orlando continues.
Little minor fun fact here. If you happen to go to the sports bars in Gainesville, they will have more people rooting for and wearing Bulls jerseys than they will Magic, and that's because no matter where Billy Donovan goes, they become fans of that team. And now that Billy's in Chicago and doing a very good job there, I should say, they are now Bulls fans. So
were they Thunder fans when he was
Thunder
there?
Fans when he went out there. Look, he got them back-to-back national championships. So they, when he got the opportunity to head out and coach in Oklahoma, nobody begrudged him. And Mike White.
I bet if he lands in Georgia, they won't be fans.
No, but I don't think he's headed to Atlanta anytime soon. I think he's got a good deal going in Chicago, and for the time being, anyway. I think he's safe there. All right, so we go from the Bulls and the Magic to
the Wizards and the Hornets.
The Wiz
at Ted Leonsis' building.
Yeah.
The Hornets 19-18. The Wizards 18-18. Charlotte, they're playing back-to-back. They played last night against Phoenix. A lot of people thought there was value in Charlotte last night. I got news for you. There wasn't. They were trounced 133-99.
This just in.
Yeah. Like we just talked about a minute ago, the Wizards beaten 120-119 at the buzzer by the Bulls Saturday, which was too bad. Washington had taken the lead with 3.3 seconds to go on a Kyle Kuzma three, but DeMar DeRozan hit a contested three in the corner at the buzzer to knock Washington off there. Fortunately for Washington, they faced a Charlotte team that is absolutely brutal in the second game of back-to-backs. They're 0-7 this year. And look at that number. They give up 125.6 points per game in the second game of back-to-backs. Now, I mean, that doesn't say a whole lot considering the Hornets are last in the league in scoring defense. They're second in scoring offense, though. So they're kind of like we talked about the other day, the old Paul Westhead sort of thing, or Paul Westphal and Loyola Marymount, all those guys.
Right.
Charlotte 2-5 in their last seven.
They don't play Temple that well.
No, they don't. And that's the problem there.
Which is probably why they're so bad in defense.
Yeah. James Borrego has his hands full as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But the Charlotte 2-5 in their last 7 against the spread, playing on no days of rest. Washington 4-0 in their last 4 with 1 day of rest. They're 5-0 in their last 5 against teams with a winning record. They're 5-1 in their last 6 against the spread overall. Surprisingly, they're only giving 2 points against a team that is, the equivalent of Swiss cheese when it comes to playing on the defensive end of the floor. Now, I know that the Hornets can score, but we just saw they played a team yesterday and got blown out by 34. The margin won't be that big here, but I like Washington at home. They played really well against Chicago. And like you talked about with the Jets earlier, you have to play 59 minutes. Mm-hmm. They were in control, and they lost late. Same thing with Washington. They played well for 47 minutes and 57 seconds, but it's a 48-minute game.
Right.
And if you don't play well in those last 3 seconds, that comes back to burn you.
Well, the shot, too, that beat them was you said it was a contested shot. It was. It reminded me a lot of the Paul Pierce shot that when he was playing for the Wizards in the playoffs, and he hit that shot against, I think it was Boston, if memory serves. Anyway, as Paul's falling out of bounds, he throws it up there and he hits it, and he screams glass wherever it leaves his hands. It bounces off and goes in. The shot that beat the Wiz the other night was very much the same way. He was definitely contested. He went up in the air, put up a heck of a shot, and he also fell out of bounds as the ball went through the basket. So
yeah, it reminded me too a lot of the one that Kawhi Leonard had a couple of years ago to beat the 76ers, where it bounced off the rim like 73 times.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's sitting there waiting, watching to don't touch it. All right, in it goes. All right, so the Wiz get the nod over the Hornets, and let's close out our night on the hardwood in the association with the 76ers.
The city of brotherly love.
Get some love tonight against the Rockets.
They're facing the dysfunctional Rockets. Houston 10-27 on the year. Philadelphia, they're still struggling. They're right 19-16, but they've won 3 in a row. Meanwhile, Houston, remember that 7-game win streak they had before? Well, forget about it. They've lost 7 straight.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
And if you look at the next line there, Jim, outside of that 7-game win streak, the Rockets are 3-27.
Wait.
If you're scoring at home, that's a winning percentage of 10%. Now, I know that, the sun shines on a dog's ass some days, but it's not shining for Houston. Christian Wood played only 8 minutes Saturday. He didn't start. He didn't play in the second half. Kevin Porter blew up at John Lucas and left the Toyota Center at halftime. Reports are they're both going to be suspended for at least 1 game. Which won't help the Rockets any here. Eric Gordon, I believe, is questionable. Let me double-check that real quick here. Gordon is marked as he's questionable with hamstring tightness. Armani Brooks, Dejan Duro, and Alperen Sengun also out for them. For Philadelphia, they should have most of their lineup. The only people on the injury report, Miles Powell is out. Ben Simmons, of course, hasn't played all season. Nobody cares. Matisse Thybulle is questionable in the protocols. He's hoping to clear out of them today. So they should have Danny Green and all those guys back as well. Mm-hmm. The Rockets 0-7 against the spread in their last 7. They're 0-6 in their last 6 following an ATS loss. They're 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 following a straight-up loss. And the 76ers 10-3 in their last 13 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. And they've gone 7-2 against the spread in the last 9 meetings between those teams in Philadelphia. Let's face it, the Rockets were good for about 2 weeks. And unfortunately, basketball is a 6-month season. If you're only good for 2 weeks, you can be counting on looking at ping pong balls starting pretty soon.
Right. You're praying that Adam Silver pulls the ping pong ball out of your out for you. All right. So tonight at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, who has crafted a very good resume in Pittsburgh, will say goodbye to the Steeler faithful, and that is not an easy thing to do. And even although they're mathematically still in the race, it's going to take a lot to get the Steelers into the playoffs, beginning with a win over Cleveland tonight. But the interesting thing, Chris, and I'll throw it to you on this, is that now that Cleveland has been eliminated, the swing on the points on this game has gone crazy.
Yeah, it has. I mean, Cleveland opened as a 3-point favorite. It's now swung completely the other way, where the Steelers are favored by 3. I haven't heard Kevin Stefanski say he's not playing half his guys, so I'm kind of curious what has led to this sudden shift. I mean, I know that the Browns are going to have some issues in their secondary with John Johnson being out and Rodney Harrison taking out their safety duo, but still, I haven't heard them saying they're not going to play Baker Mayfield, they're not going to play Nick Chubb, they're not going to play everybody else. So you have to wonder why this line has all of a sudden moved. I don't think, Pittsburgh is a great thing here. But to me, it's a too steep of a line move. I didn't trust Pittsburgh in this game to begin with. And I definitely don't trust them now where they're favored.
Well,
like I said, I like Cleveland +3. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like the concept of win one for Ben. I get that, but you have to have the players to win one for Ben. And that's been the Steelers' problem this year. They've been beaten up. They've had COVID issues. They have not a lot of things going well for them. And to suddenly think that this team that, got manhandled a couple of weeks ago is going to turn around and suddenly play great football, whether you want to or not. I mean, I think everybody wants to play well for Ben. That doesn't, but the other side has better players. So we'll see. Yeah,
I mean, the Steelers won the first game this season between those teams 15-10 back on Halloween, in a game where they lost their kicker. Boswell suffered a concussion when they tried to run a fake field goal in the first half. But a big matchup here. Cleveland likes to run the ball. They're third in the league, averaging almost 145 yards a game. And guess what? Pittsburgh's the worst in the league when it comes to stopping the run. So if the Steelers can't get off the field because Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who's supposed to be back tonight, run all over them, it's not going to matter. The Browns 7-3-1 against the spread in their last 11 in January. Pittsburgh's 0-6 against teams with a losing record. They're 0-5 after giving up more than 250 yards through the air. We probably don't have to look for that from Baker Mayfield in this one. The Browns don't have a ton of success throwing the ball. And the Steelers 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 at home against teams with a losing road record. And like Mike just said, the line started moving as soon as Cleveland was eliminated. But the fact remains that it shouldn't have moved 6 points at this point. I mean, Pittsburgh hasn't been good all season. Like you said, they got trounced by Kansas City last week. How can you have faith in them in a game just because it's Roethlisberger's potential last game at Heinz Field? They've been flat for a month. Why are they going to suddenly turn it on now?
Not unless they're bringing back 5 or 6 players that were on the team over his career.
Maybe they can go get Franco Harris. He's not. I was
going to say the bust because he actually played with Roethlisberger.
True.
And,
maybe they get Hines Ward.
Hines Ward would be a good one to get back. And
Antoine Randall L.
Antoine Randall. So there's that possibility. Now Watt's going to play, right?
As far as I know, I haven't seen him show up on the
injury report. Anything on the injury report that Watt wasn't going to play.
Yeah, I saw Devin Bush was on it the other day. I don't know if he came back off or not.
Well, he wasn't on your list, so I think he must be okay. So, there's something to root for if you're a Steeler fan.
Yeah, it says there's no sign of Watt on the injury report despite something. It says they believe that he has cracked ribs, but apparently that's not going to matter.
Now he's a Watt. That doesn't, unless you got broken leg, both your legs are broken, you're still going to play.
Yeah, right. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has the headline, Steelers-Browns matchup preview, TJ Watt versus whoever has to block him.
Yeah, good luck with that. All right. So Baker Mayfield will be running around a lot tonight. Okay, so we are now at that point in time where we go for 2 for the show.
Yes, we do.
Oh, it'd be good if I put it up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I like as bad as some of these numbers are. It just shows you how bad, how one-sided some of these games are on the schedule. The Bucks facing the Pistons. I mean, Detroit is awful. They're the only team in the East worse than Orlando, which tells you something because it's tough to find somebody that's that bad. The Pistons won't have Jeremy Grant, Frank Jackson, Corey Joseph, Isaiah Livers, Kelly Olynyk, Trayvon Palmer, Davidas Savitas, Chris Smith, Cassius Stanley, Isaiah Stewart, Derek Walton Jr., Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars,
Right.
James Edwards, and John Sally. Rick Mahorn also out tonight for the Pistons. The Bulls, I mean, Chris Middleton's questionable, but you still have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You still have J. Rue Holiday. Let's face it, the Bucks are good. They're defending champs. The Pistons are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you really have to say there. We touched on the Bulls in Orlando. Like we said, Orlando's a mash unit. They're the second worst team in the East. The Bulls lead the East now. They've supplanted the Nets atop the conference. They're playing at home. They've won 7 straight. They didn't play yesterday like Orlando did, so Orlando had to fly from Boston to Chicago after that game. They're going to be tired. The Bulls should have little problem dispatching the Magic. Again, we talked about the 76ers facing the Rockets. The Rockets are a dumpster fire when you get right down to it. They have no players to speak of, and now they're suspending Wood and Porter. That's 2 of their top 3 scoring options. And finally, Purdue, like we said, at home at the Mackey Arena, they're 8-0 at home this season. They play well offensively. They can kill you on the glass. Wisconsin, they struggled against Nicholls State. They struggled against Illinois State. They were blown out on the road by Ohio State. I like the Boilermakers at home to avenge that loss that they gave us when they lost to Rutgers. Again, thanks, Ron Harper Jr.
Yeah.
I was just going to say,
we're gonna take it and change the name of the Orlando Magic to the I-4 Magic. So because the G League team is in Lakeland, so 40 miles away, you're gonna get some players. So either we're gonna do a hyphen Orlando hyphen Lakeland, or we'll just make it the I-4 Magic to make it simple on the rest. So, yeah, make it easier. All right, so we've gone 2 for the money. Let's go 4 for the show, and not to brag, but we will anyway. If you would have gone with the 4 on Friday, you would have won.
Yeah, well, sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not. I mean, it happens.
That's right.
Washington, like I said, it's actually -2 now. I should have updated that. I didn't get a chance to. But I like the Wizards -2 over the Hornets. Like we said, Charlotte is a sieve defensively. They give up 125 points per game in the second game of back-to-backs. They're 0-7 in those situations. They were just dropped by 34 by Phoenix. Washington had a day off. They were at home Saturday night anyway. Bradley Beal played well. Kuzma played well. They hope to get Montrezl Harrell back. I like them there. Arizona over Washington at the McHale Center. We talked about it. When you lose at home to Winthrop and Utah Valley, I can't take you seriously. Mike Hopkins' team is awful. Tommy Lloyd's done a great job in Tucson. I look for them to win big. The Rangers is supposed to be +100. I didn't get a chance to re-edit that because it changed shortly before showtime over Edmonton. Edmonton has struggled of late. The Rangers beat Tampa Bay yesterday. I know they're playing a second game of back-to-back, but they seem to thrive in those situations. They've moved right up into the thick of the Metropolitan Division race. And finally, Golden State over Miami. Miami played last night, lost to Sacramento, 115-113. The Heat expected to be minus. Oh, God, do I even want to look at how long this list is? The Heat expected to be minus. Okay, they haven't submitted their injury report yet. So that saves me the aggravation of reading off like 72 names. Right. But expect pretty much everybody but Jimmy Butler probably to be on the injury report.
Before we get to the Jack Buck portion of the program that we like to call Let's Go Crazy, I just want to do one last opportunity to say, if you haven't used Caesars Sportsbook yet, you got it, folks. For any of you who are going to make your first bet there with their beta betting app or online, be sure to understand the fact that they're doing a promotion with us because they like us. And if you go to the Caesars Sports app or Caesars Book Online, all that information is in the show box below, and you use the promo code Video Winners, then they will match your first bet all the way up to $1,001. So, as Chris likes to say, playing with free money is not a bad thing. So, again, go to the Caesar Sportsbook. First time you've established an account with them, either online or using the app, use that promo code, Video Winners, and they'll match your first bet all the way up to $1,001. So have to be 21 years of age, and of course, this is only valid in the states where Caesar Sportsbook is listed. All of that's in the show box below. And as always, and Chris and I have told you this many, many times, only bet responsibly, folks. This is important. The most important thing we can tell you is it's fun, and we like you. We try to give you information that will help you. But the most important thing we can tell you is bet responsibly, because that's the key. All right, so onward and upward we go, and we would be, this is kind of the trademark. Okay, this is Chris's trademark. He gives you plenty of options here. And Chris, I'll let you go through them. Here we go, buddy.
Yeah, like I said, Jim said you can take 2, you can take 4, take 12, whatever works for you. We're not going to tell you what to do here. But like I said, we talked about at the beginning of the show, Oregon State over Sacramento State. The Beavers have won 2 in a row. They beat the Utes Thursday night, 88-76. They're at home. Sacramento State lost to Southern Utah in their last game. Look for the Beavers at home. I like Iowa, -8 at home over Maryland. Danny Manning taking over for the departed Mark Turgeon. It's the first road game for the Terrapins this season. Everybody knows that Fran McCaffrey can get his team playing well offensively at home. If the Hawkeyes can play some defense, that'd be great. John, this one's for you. You talk about teams that are worse than IUPUI. How about Alabama State versus Mississippi Valley State? Alabama State ranked 333rd of the 358 teams in the Ken Pom rankings. If you're looking for the worst team, you're looking at it right here. Lindsey Hunter coaching Mississippi Valley State. They're dead last. They're 0-10. Margins of defeat for them: 58, 29, 15, 39, 14, 47, 15. They lost to Arkansas State by 5. I think there's a typo. 31 and 42. They are second worst in offensive efficiency. They are worst in defensive efficiency. But they like to run. They're 5th in tempo. But figure this out. They're 356th in effective field goal percentage at 39.4%. Defensively, opposing teams have an effective field goal percentage of 62.3%. That includes 45.1% from three-point range, also the worst mark in the nation. Mississippi Valley State is dead last in scoring defense. They give up 90.6 points a game. They're 341st in scoring. They average 61. On the flip side, Mo Williams coaching Alabama State. They're 346th in scoring defense. They go 79.5 points. They're 286th in scoring at 66.8. But when you're facing a team like Mississippi Valley State, who not only hasn't won, they've only kept one game under 15 points, you have to feel pretty comfortable. Obviously, playing down there in the SWAC, you're going to see these teams play at a fast tempo. Like I said, Mississippi Valley State 5th in the nation, Alabama State 11th. It wouldn't surprise me to see these teams go over whatever the number is set for this game. I believe it was 152 or something like that. But you want to see two teams that are bad. It's kind of the opposite of IUPUI. IUPUI doesn't score any points. These teams will score points. They just can't stop anybody. So, I mean, it's kind of like watching the Hornets only in college basketball. So there's your entertaining game that nobody's ever heard of. Like I said, Edmonton, the Rangers, I like to go over 6.5 just because Edmonton can score. The Rangers, with a backup goaltender, they might give up a couple more than you would normally see. I like the Browns +3 over Pittsburgh. I don't care if the Browns are eliminated or not. I can't have faith in a Pittsburgh team that looked like they gave up last week and haven't played well most of the season. I also think that one's going to stay under the total. Let's be honest. Neither one of these teams are offensive juggernauts by any stretch of the imagination. The weather's not going to be the greatest up there in Pittsburgh. And when they met back in October, when the weather was good, they combined for 25 points. Hopefully there's a few more than that tonight, but I still expect to stay under the 42.5, 43, depending on which sportsbook you're at. I think MGM bumped it up to 43.5. Either way, I don't expect it to get that high. I like Utah -10 on the road against New Orleans. They'll bounce back from that loss to Golden State the other night. Denver +3 over Dallas. I know Luka Doncic could play tonight, but I haven't been sold on the way the Mavericks have played most of the season. And a bit of a surprise, I kind of like Portland +5.5 over Atlanta. Atlanta still won't have Bogdanovich or John Collins or Gorgie Dang or DeAndre Hunter or Jalen Johnson. Cam Reddish is supposed to play. Damian Lillard, okay, he's been ruled out apparently now. CJ McCollum's still out, so it could be a tougher night for the Trailblazers. They could get Yusuf Nurkic back tonight. They could get Cody Zeller back. But I haven't been sold on the Hawks on the road. And finally, the Nets, -6.5. They're at home against Memphis. The Grizzlies, they play good basketball, but they're not necessarily a team you can rely on the road. The Grizzlies also, without Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks, DeAnthony Melton, Xavier Tillman, Sam Merrill, Zaire Williams is doubtful. It's a lot of offense to take out of a Memphis team. Meanwhile, the only people out for the Nets, Joe Harris and Kyrie Irving. So you're going to see Durant, you're going to see Harden. LaMarcus Aldridge is questionable. But let's face it, the Nets were getting by when they had nobody in the rotation. You have to think with so many people missing for Memphis, the Nets can get the win at home.
All right, let's close tonight, given the fact that we will likely see Big Ben in his last game at Pittsburgh. Any final thoughts on Ben as someone who followed the Buffalo Bills?
The thing I remember the most is the game he didn't play, which was a game late in the season back in the early 2000s when Buffalo could have made the playoffs. They went from 3-6 to 9-6. They won 6 in a row. In the last game of the season, he didn't play. Pittsburgh had already clinched something. They played Tommy Maddox, and it was the breakout game for Willie Parker, who nobody had heard of at that point. Mm-hmm. And Pittsburgh beat Buffalo in the last game of the season, kept them out of the postseason, part of that 17-season drought that we had to live through up until a few years ago. Roethlisberger, I mean, he's a gamer. I mean, let's not take anything away from him. He's got a couple Super Bowl rings. I'll never forget the throw he made to Santonio Holmes in the back corner of the end zone against the Cardinals. But, at least he's going to go out on his own terms and not be unceremoniously dumped and left to go sign somewhere else and try to keep his career going, kind of like Joe Namath did.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, look, it's been a lot of fun, gang. We've had a lot of ground to cover in college basketball, only one NHL game, 3 of the NBA, and, of course, Monday Night Football. So check everything out. If you missed the show, don't worry. You can get it anytime on demand right here on YouTube. You can get it on Twitch. You can get it on Facebook. You can get it on Twitter. Go to Chris's Microwave. You can probably get it there as well. So you're pretty much everywhere. All right.
Sometimes it's usually right next to the pizza.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long for today. Join us tomorrow when we come back for more Just Parlays with Chris King. Until then, be safe and be careful.